I've been working on cars for probably just over 20 years now. I started off just kind of part-time for a while, and then it just developed the last 5 years. I've gotten into it full blast. I've been doing the fiberglass roofs for the last 10 years. So I was actually in just north of Salt Lake City, Utah, and this was just about 20 years ago. And there was a guy selling a fiberglass roof for a Mustang coupe. So you needed to do the coupe conversion. It started off as kind of the notchback, and I really liked that. And then he was developing a convertible roof as well, and it looked pretty good. He ended up wanting to sell the molds for a while, and he wanted a lot of money. It took him almost $100,000 to develop the first 2 molds. He wasn't hands-on himself. He was hiring another company to do it. He got upside down with that, really wasn't selling enough to make ends meet, so he was needing to get rid of them. I was probably his only customer. I probably bought 5 of them from him at that time, because that's what I was doing. Sure. I was making a lot of money on the margins because nobody else was really doing anything like that, and it seemed like a lot of work for people, I think, at the time. But once they're finished and they're on there, I mean, they're awesome. I could put a roof on there and just paint, paint match, or just paint the whole thing, and I was probably making $10,000 on a car just by adding the top and doing some fixing up stuff. So that was working out really good. And then he was trying to buy an apartment complex, like a quadplex, and he really needed the money for a down payment. So he made me an offer that I couldn't refuse, and I took it. And we had a company building them for a while. The company that developed them, and they did fine, but then they were retiring, so I found another company in Utah to make them. They're building them, but they didn't know what they were doing and why things went together the way that they went together. So I was having huge gaps where there shouldn't be gaps, and it was causing a lot of problems. So I actually stopped production for the most part for about 3 years, until I got back to the US and built this shop, and then we retooled everything. We remade everything, fixed all the old problems, got all our gaps in a standard, and we've been doing really good and had excellent feedback. There's always going to be minor things that people have input on or thoughts on, and style-wise, but from just about everything, when I do see an issue or something that can be improved, I'll go ahead and make that improvement at that time. It's an evolving thing, different customers have different ideas and thoughts on how things should work, so I try to take that stuff into consideration. In the last 5 years, I would say roughly 100 tops, I would say, is what we've sold. I get a lot of different customers. I get some high-end customers. We've had cars at SEMA, and then everything from that to how I started off with just a 2-car garage. You're trying to keep your gardening supplies in there and taping everything off, plasticking it off so you can do your own paint and stuff. DIY, it's not that bad because you don't need a lot of tools. You need some sandpaper and like a 4.5-inch cutting disc and a drill. And everything else, it's basic hand tools. If you're not doing the painting yourself, you can get it fit and have it ready for a paint booth yourself for, under $50 in tools. So that's a big plus right there. There's not a lot of tools that you have to work on this stuff. About a year ago, and I've been contemplating it for a while, just getting out of fiberglass, because I've been doing these 65, 66, and 67, 68 Mustangs for 20 years now, and it seems like that's all I was doing. And I painted them all different colors. I would start to make up colors and do different kinds of stripes and stuff, and just because I had those molds, I always was doing those cars, and I knew that if I still had the molds, I'm just a creature of habit, I guess, and I would never get out of it, and I would never do anything else. So I ended up finding Jason when I talked about selling it, and he came down, and I've had this car for over 20 years now, and he was like, well, why don't you, do something, make something for a newer car? So we were sitting there talking about it, and I was like, it's something different. And I was like, all right, I think I can do that. And it's been fun. It's been a big challenge. This particular car, I mean, I've been working on a couple different models at the same time, but just developing the roof, I'm in 4.5, almost 5 months developing 4 different kinds of roofs for the newer cars. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just knowing that it's possible.
Right.
Because there are so many times, like on this particular roof, this is probably the 4th time I've remade it almost like this, because I make it and then have to make some adjustments, and then when I make that adjustment, then something else doesn't line up, and then I'm gluing all these pieces together to make a mold, but then, you know, things start getting thicker and I can't trim it again in that way, so I have to remake a mold, remake a roof just to try to fit it again. So it's been very labor intensive for sure, but rewarding at the same time. You know, once it kind of gets there, it's kind of fun, and just being creative with it a little bit. My goal between, so from the 1994 all the way up to 2014, there's 4 different, you know, body styles in that. I am probably gonna guess I'll be right about 100 for the year, right in there, and we can produce that without too much of a problem. Our biggest challenge is shipping. Shipping something this big is really expensive. Like going through a freight company, like, you know, I'm not going to name names, but the big freight companies, they're timely, but I always get overcharges, and there's nobody that really fights in my corner. Like I've had a crate go out, actually an open pallet with one of these on it, and I got an overcharge saying that it was 1,300 pounds, and it's literally a fiberglass roof on a pallet, and I have pictures of it, you know, and everything. Right. And I was like, who, you know, like, just look at this and tell me if this is fiberglass, if it looks like it weighs that much. And they're like, that's what the scale said, and there's no recourse, so I have to pay that. Either that or they shut my account down. Right. And it's happened too many times. So that's why I don't ship through those. I'll crate stuff for other people if they want to set up their own shipping.
Sure.
I do have a guy that's got a 24-foot enclosed trailer and a couple smaller enclosed trailers. Been working with him the last probably 6 months. So my idea is to get some orders like up to the Northeast, and then he can just drop them on his way up there to a certain point and get back, because I know he's reliable. He's, you know, he's going to charge me or me and the customer an honest price, and they're going to get there. So I really mostly just work off of Facebook and just phone calls, kind of word of mouth. I'm kind of surprised at how many people will call me or email me asking for photos, and I'm like, well, have you been on my Facebook page? You know, I've got a bunch of photos there, and they're like, oh no, I didn't know you had a Facebook page. Right. So, and there's a surprising amount of customers, you know, that they probably see it at car shows or friends have them or something like that. Sure. And they get my information from that. But I pretty much stick to Facebook. I'm just used to it. It's not overwhelming to me versus having multiple platforms and trying to, because I get so many messages, and I do get people confused from time to time when it's like Bill Elliott and Bill Lanoit, you know. I'm like, I just told this guy like something similar. So, and that's just me in my mind. It's tough to keep people straight, so I just keep it to Facebook.